You a health practitioner feeling burnt out in the clinic, looking to take your expertise online? Well, you've come across the right video. I'm going to show you exactly how to transition from an in-person practice to building a health coaching business online without the grind. My name is Uriel Kim, I'm CEO and founder of Healthpreneur, the longest standing coaching company helping health professionals build scalable coaching businesses online without the grind or guesswork. And what I'm going to share with you today is how to take your awesomeness and transition it from what you're doing in person to online. Now, this will apply to you whether you're a knowledge-based practitioner, like a medical doctor, naturopath, functional medicine practitioner, dietitian, nutritionist, or if you're a hands-on therapist, chiropractor, physical therapist, osteopath. You might be thinking to yourself, how on earth do I take my hands-on skills and bring it online? Well, all I ask of you is to keep an open mind because we've been helping thousands of your colleagues do this over the past 8 years. And I've been online since 2005. That's 20 plus years now. I started off as a trainer and nutritionist. So if I can do this, you can too. So the one thing that I want to just encourage you to start with is just keeping this open mind of the idea around you can do this. Like there's no block, there's no brick wall in front of you other than your own limiting beliefs. So if you come in with an open mind, everything else will take care of itself. So the way I look at this, there's 3 facets to doing this. The first stage is we want to clarify. So clarify is really first and foremost understanding that online, it's really important to pick a single target market with one problem that you're going to solve. Now, I know that right now, you're most likely acting as a generalist. People come into the clinic, they fall into your lap, and you work with all sorts of different situations and conditions. That's fine. It's not going to be fine, though, online. And if you're already a specialist, amazing, right? This will be a little bit easier for you. But if you're not a specialist, like you really have to narrow down to one problem and one core audience who has that problem. And you can't effectively market a vague general message. If you try to help everyone, you end up helping no one. I have other videos that talk about how to do that. So for the sake of this, let's just assume that we have that. The other reason that's really important is because it's going to help you streamline your delivery. So right now, part of the problem you're experiencing, most likely, is let's say you see 10 patients in a day, 10 clients, 10 patients, and they all have different issues. So everyone requires one-on-one individualized attention to protocols because they all have their own stuff going on. So again, that's a decision you consciously made to say, I'm going to help everyone. But again, if you want to streamline what you're doing online, if you have one single condition you help with, then it allows you to streamline the curriculum I'm going to walk you through in a moment so much more effectively. Because if you deal with IBS, migraines, weight loss, Hashimoto's, skin issues, cancer, etc., how can all of those fit into one curriculum? Certainly there's some overlap, but the reality is like if everyone's a special snowflake, you don't have a scalable business. But the first thing we really have to identify is that single target market and what that problem is, that profitable problem. It needs to be a bleeding net problem, not just like improving my health. Like it needs to be something that people are willing to pay money to solve. Because what you're going to be offering them is not one-off sessions. I would strongly discourage you from doing that. You want to be charging for an outcome. So let's say that you're charging $100 per session right now. You come online, you're going to put together a 6, 8, 10, 12-week program, something along those lines. When I say program, please understand it's not a do-it-yourself course. It's going to be built to achieve an outcome. And that outcome is going to have a price point. So if you're helping someone achieve X, you're going to charge $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for it. So when you are thinking through that, it's no longer about your time, but it's more about the outcome. So a really good question to ask is, what could I help someone with if I never saw them in person? And this is actually a really good thought exercise because if you just sit back and think about it, you have way more expertise than you're giving yourself credit for. You know, you went to school for a long time. You've been doing what you're doing for a long time. But you're in a box that's very limited, and it's based on your time, physical presence, and maybe your hands. But you have knowledge way beyond that. And what I'm getting you to think about here is, what does that look like? Here's a way to think about it. As an example, we'll just use a physical problem. So let's say I had low back pain, right? That was my issue. And we ran into each other in the elevator. And you had 30 seconds to give me some poignant advice based on the fact that you knew more or less what kind of back pain it was to help me get better. And after that 30 seconds in the elevator, I would never see you again. What could you possibly advise me to do or avoid doing? Now, we're not going to build an amazing coaching program in 30 seconds, but it's a good thought exercise to think about. If I had 30 seconds with someone in an elevator, what could I possibly tell them to do once we get out of the elevator to help them alleviate the back pain? And just kind of sit with that and think about it, because that's the start. That's the genesis. That's the seed through which this new way of thinking will start to sprout. And you might be surprised by what you find. So I'm going to show an example of how I built my first program online in just a moment, but the clarification piece. So clarify is step one. We want to really clarify what's the problem. So it's the what and the who. What are we solving? Who are we solving it for? Okay. The second piece now is we want to codify it. We want to take your knowledge and we want to productize it. We want to productize your service. Right now, you're getting paid for what you do. I want to help you get paid for what you know. Now, caveat, you're not going to get paid for what you know just by being smart. Like, you have to translate your knowledge into outcomes for your clients. But what I'm trying to get you to think about is right now, you're getting paid for doing stuff, showing up, spending an hour with a patient or clients, checking in, checking out, you're done. But when you start getting paid for what you know, like the wealthiest people on this planet get paid for their intellectual property. And whether or not you know it, you're like just filled with intellectual property. If anything, the one thing you have going for you more than anything else is the deep expertise you have about the human body. That is an unbelievable advantage you have, because it means you have a tremendous amount of knowledge. But that knowledge is like a supercar sitting in your garage with no gas and no keys if you don't know how to productize it. And so that's what I want to help you do in this Codify pillar. Here's the way to think about this is when someone sees you in person, right? They come into the clinic, they have their first session with you. What is the process? Like, I want you to take out a sheet of paper and I want you to do this. I want you to literally map this out. So the first thing I do is this, and then I do this, and then I do this. So this would be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And like, I'm talking about granular. So step 1 would be I greet them, bring them in treatment room, right? Whatever your situation is. Okay, this might be different for you, but I'm trying to like really get you to granularize how you do this with someone. So then when you're with them, all right, so what are the questions you're asking them? What are you trying to get at? What kind of information are you trying to get out of them? And with that information, what are you doing with it? How are you piecing together your plan, your protocol, your prescription for what they're going to do to get better? So I'll give you an example. So this is like the Codify is really about the how. How do you help the who with the what? So when I was working as a trainer, I was a really good trainer. I loved helping people get in shape. I worked with high-level athletes as well. And so I had a client one day, and he said to me, he's like working out, huffing and puffing. He's like, Yuri, why don't you put your voice on tape? And this is back in 2005. The iPod had just come out. So this is the ability to take MP3 audio and put it onto a device like an iPhone, but it was called an iPod. And I thought to myself, what does that even mean? But I like that idea. So I started and again, I didn't know what the answer was right away, but I thought, man, that's a great idea. How could I put my voice on tape? And what would that mean? That would mean that, okay, well, if I'm not working with my clients, they could have my voice on their headphones, guiding them through their workouts? So theoretically, I could help my clients still get in shape, and I could still get paid even if I wasn't there. Man, this is exciting. So what I did is, after some time thinking through this, I took 2 weeks off over a Christmas break. December was a busy time for me. I mean, I forgoed thousands of dollars to sit at home with my computer, and I had a basic mic. Like, it wasn't anything fancy. and I started to record my voice in GarageBand. So what this looked like, so before I did this, I mapped out, okay, if I'm thinking to myself, I have my clients in my head. I'm like, okay, so so-and-so comes in, we're going to start working out. Okay, what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to warm up. Okay, I'm going to assume that this person listening to this workout, because these were audio guided workouts, they weren't video at the time. They don't have a treadmill, they don't have a bike, they don't have an elliptical. I'm just going to make that assumption because they can do this stuff at home or in the gym. So I'm like, okay, if I want someone to warm up for 5 minutes, what could I do? All right, cool. So maybe they can just do some jumping jacks, they can jog on the spot, they can skip rope. I could also give them instructions to be like, hey, if you are in a gym, hop on a treadmill, get on a bike, get an elliptical. All right, well, like what pace should they be working at? All right, so I use the talk test pace. So you want to be working at a pace whereby you can still carry a conversation, but you hear a little bit of huff and puff. You want to feel your body getting warm, and that's the sensation you're going for 5 minutes. So I need to give them instruction that is so clear that they can follow this and succeed even if I never spoke to them. And that's how this program was built out. So I started to map it out. I built out the workout programs, the structure. All right, 30-second plank, 30 seconds of push-ups, 30-second side plank, 30 minutes of bodyweight squats. It was like, and I structured the workouts based on my knowledge of, strength and conditioning, and periodization, all this kind of stuff. So I built out a 12-week program, called it Fit or You, which is not a really good name because it was like U as in university. It was kind of weird. And that was the first program I developed. Now, what I should have done with that, what I could have done with that is I could have turned that product into a high-ticket coaching program where in addition to the client going through it on their own, I could have layered in accountability, right? Virtual check-ins, stuff like that, and more of a community on top of that. And I could have charged a lot more money than I did for the product itself. But I'm sharing this with you because the idea here is you already have a recipe for how you help clients achieve the results. What I'm encouraging you to think about here are what are the step-by-step things you're having somebody do that get them there. Now, I'm giving you the example of a workout. Now, if you're doing other things that involve lab tests or nutritional protocols, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing, right? Maybe you're doing a look under the hood, right? So you're getting an assessment of, you're having somebody do lab tests, right? So we're going to do this lab test, this lab test, this lab test. Cool. We're going to get her back. We're going to do a finding this results based on that. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do this. I'm going to have this person do this. Whatever your process is, mark it, map it out. Okay. So this becomes the Codify part of the process. And when we're working with clients, one of the things that we help them do here is articulate what we call a proprietary process. It's essentially like your secret sauce. Like, so in our business, we have a few, but if you've seen my videos, you'll know that one of them looks like this. This is what we call our perfect client pipeline, TM. We have ads that go to a webinar. From the webinar, we go to an app to a call, right? And this is how we move people from unknown to in demand. And you're unknown over here, making no money, and you're happy over here, and you've got clients paying you premium dollars. So this is an example of a proprietary process. Now, this is the chunking up of when I broke everything down. So I'm like, if I took a client in, what's the first thing I'm gonna have them do? Like, okay, yep. And then we map it out like this. Okay, so it's a little more advanced, but I just wanna share kind of like where this goes. So we talk about Codify, and that's what we just discussed. Now, the third piece is create. So think of this. So the creation is, okay, well, we talked about the what. We talked about who has the what that we're going to serve. We talked about how we're going to help them solve it. And now, what are we going to do to start putting this in place? How do we take the concepts or the thoughts of how we're building this out, and what do we do with this? Like, how do we start to like put this into some type of curriculum? Because what we want to do is we want to build, we call it a dream come true system. Okay, so DCTS. And the dream come true system has 3 layers. You have curriculum, if that's spelling. You have, well, let me talk about curriculum first. So curriculum, think of it as an online portal, right? To be hosted in Kajabi, school, it doesn't matter. You have trainings, stuff like videos, worksheets, etc. inside of a portal that clients would log into. That's your curriculum. So it's self-directed and they go through at their own pace. Here's why this is massively important. So you're here because you care about helping people, right? Awesome. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to you perhaps, or maybe known to you, here's what actually happens in a doctor-patient relationship. And I use the word doctor loosely. It could be therapist, coach, doesn't matter. Typically. Okay, so what's happening here, they have a touch point with you, they get a little bit better, right? They have a touch point with you, they get a little bit better. But as you'll see here, what happens is they go through these peaks and troughs. So they get better when they see you, right? If you're a chiropractor, you give them manipulation, they feel better. A couple of days later, they feel like shit again. And it goes on and on and on. So I call this the transactional model. And they come in, they swipe their credit card, they pay for a session, right? It's in and out, it's transactional. This is also a problem because it's doctor dependence, okay? Practitioner dependent. This is not a sustainable model. It's not good for you, and it's not good for the client or patient you're working with. Hey, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button below. It will help me sleep a lot better at night. But more importantly for you, it'll help you build your dream a lot faster. So go ahead, subscribe, and we'll get back to the show. What we do with a curriculum is this. So notice the difference, right? You have up and down, a little bit of progress over time. Here, we're seeing steady progress. And the difference is the following. So what is happening between these blue points is everything. So this is all the client. And what the client's doing is they're following a curriculum. So essentially what's happening here is, let's say that you had a session with a client over Zoom. You're checking in, you're setting some goals, whatever. What do? Now they're on their own, right? For the next couple of days, week, whatever it is. What do? Not to worry. We've already built out the curriculum. They log in. You're going to follow it step by step. And therefore, what happens here is the client achieves transformation. And the reason for this is because it's not dependent upon you. It's clients empowered. Sorry, my writing is like chicken scratch today. So why this is so powerful is that I think most of us, you and I probably understand that for our clients to get better results, they have to learn how to fish, right? If you've got kids, if you keep tying your kids' shoes, they will never learn how to tie their shoes. You might think you're doing them a service in the meantime, but they're never going to learn the skill of tying their shoes. It's the same thing with the doctor-dependent model. They come into the clinic, they lay on the table, and stuff is done to them. Here, in a coaching relationship, which is what we're building online, it's the client. It's the client that does the work. And that's why if someone's asking you like for a guarantee, you have to be like, hey, listen, like in all honesty, I can't give you a guarantee because you have to do the work. I can guarantee you a proven plan, but if you don't do the work between when I'm seeing you, none of this is going to matter. So this approach, and what's awesome about this, so we've worked with thousands of practitioners, and even the most skeptical people are like, there's no way my clients will get better results online. We see this honestly, to the letter, every single time. Charlie, one of our clients from a few years ago, is a physical therapist, and he's specialized in sciatica. Like sciatica, you'd think there's no way, right? Like this has got to be like an in-person, hands-on, soft tissue stuff or whatever. Okay, cool. Initially, yeah, maybe, but we got him to think outside the box. So it's, again, going through this process, like how do you codify what you do with people in a way that could help them if you never saw them in person? And so again, you'd like step back and you start thinking, well, maybe I could have them do like some nerve flossing or some soft tissue work or like, some self-release, whatever it is. And so you start to think creatively, and that's when you come up with awesome solutions. So client starts to follow the curriculum, they start getting good results. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like my clients get better results and I'd never seen them in person. And that's because this approach is client empowered. It's not doctor dependent. When you teach your clients how to fish, they get better results. If they get better results, is that good for you? Of course it is. It's good for you because you get more social proof, you build your reputation, people start talking, and that's why this is so important. So when we look at the curriculum is the base of this dream come true system, which is ultimately your coaching program. So the curriculum gives you a tremendous amount of leverage because the client, if you think, it's so funny when I talk to clients who just kind of are early on in the program and I meet them for the first time, they're like, oh my God, Yuri, this is so weird. I feel like I go to bed with you. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, like they go to bed and they watch me on their computer because they're going through our training portal and they see my videos. So even though I might see them like in terms of a unit of time, like 1 unit of time, they're seeing me 10, 15, 20 units of time in the curriculum. So I'm actually helping them more in this format than if I even saw them in a one-on-one call. And so it gives me a tremendous amount of leverage because my clients can benefit from my guidance and direction and frameworks without me having to be there, right? So it's like, what to have people do. Now we're just going to create that, and I'll talk about that in a moment of how to do that. So, well, before we go on, let me talk a little more about that. Okay, so we talk about the creation. So when I talk about creation, there are really 3 things I really want you to focus on. Skills, here's what you're selling, okay? You're selling an outcome for sure. Skills, accountability, and community. For the most part, these are the 3 big pillars that you're going to give people. Now, if you do more nutrition work and under the hood lab stuff, it might be a little bit of a nuance, but for the most part, the reason people don't have what they want is because they don't have the right skills or habits to get them there, right? If someone's 100 pounds overweight, that's a habit issue. So what you're going to do in your curriculum is you're going to create videos. You can shoot videos like this, or you can do slides, voiceover slides. You could do a Loom video. It doesn't have to be professional. It's fine. You're going to walk them through. I want you to think about what are you going to have them do as opposed to what are you going to have them learn. They're here for implementation, not information. The biggest problem health professionals make is they want to vomit all their knowledge on their clients. And then the client's like, oh my God, I have to watch these 2-hour videos every time? No, it's too much. Here's what you do. You break down your curriculum into weeks, okay? So I'll just give you an example here. And I want you to think about in week 1, what is the single skill I'm going to have this person build, right? So let's just use an example. Walk 30 minutes every morning. That's all I'm going to have you do this week. So it's going to be a short video. Here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're doing it. Here's how to do it. Now go do it. What, why, how, now. You give them very, very specific and bite-sized instructions. You can keep eating at McDonald's. You can keep doing whatever you want. All I'm going to have you do this week is walk for 30 minutes. That's in the morning. First thing, go. Okay? Now, I'm just giving you an example. Your version might be different, obviously. Second thing is, okay, now that we have this foundation, we're going to drink 1 liter of water every morning. So we still have the habit of walking every morning, right? That's not changing. Now we layer on top, or we skill stacked or habit stack drinking 1 liter of water. Because if you have a client that comes in and you're like, all right, I'm just going to do this, they're like, oh, it feels like they're like getting machine gunned. So it's going to be laser focused. And then maybe the third step is, okay, first thing in the morning after your liter of water, we're going to add 30 grams of protein. But so what's happening here is your skill stacking week 1, week 2, week 3, but the previous week's habits continue. So by the end of the program with you, they're not just consuming information. They're like, who cares about that? They're becoming a different person. So in the doing of these things, they get the outcome. And that's the key distinction here. So the most important thing are these skills or habits, and the accountability that they're getting can be in a couple forms. One is obviously you can have calls with them, you can have a WhatsApp, you can have text reminders. There's all sorts of ways of doing that. Don't worry too much about the technicalities there. But I'm telling you this, the biggest accountability is going to come from how much they pay you. Because when they pay attention. So if you want more committed clients, you just increase your price. That's it. You're not going to chase people to get them to do something. Just get them to pay more. Then we'll do it anyways. So accountability is you're paying $5,000 for me to help you do whatever or achieve this outcome. Cool. that could be all the accountability they need. I paid $5,000. I'm just going to show up and do the things that I know I need to do, but I'm not doing. But now because I'm paying, I'm going to do them. So that's at a basic level, really important to understand. In addition to that, you can have check-in calls, coaching calls, all that kind of stuff. And then community is if you decide to build this out into more of a group-based program, then most likely you're going to have other clients who are on a similar journey and we're going to support each other. Isolation kills, community heals. So the community becomes very, very powerful because now you have this peer-to-peer support instead of just coach-to-peer support. So the community piece becomes very, very, very powerful. And it's one of the biggest reasons your clients are going to want to stay. I'll just give you an example. So one of our clients, Russell, he helps men with porn and sex addiction. Pretty touchy subject. Those men in their lives, do you believe that they have a community of other men who also have porn and sex addiction and they openly talk about it and share? No way. No way. I would bet my life on that. So what you're able to create for people is a community where they have other people just like them, where they feel seen, heard, and safe, where they have other like-minded individuals who are all positive, moving in the same direction, dealing with the same issues. So when you create a community, you create this really, really powerful, safe space that becomes one of the biggest selling features for people to stay. Once they're in, they're like, man, I'm a life. And that becomes really, really helpful because again, it removes the onus on you to deliver everything. So skills, accountability, community. Now, if you're asking, okay, Drew, well, what kind of coaching do I do throughout the process? There's all sorts of ways. The cool thing about delivery is that there's a million ways to do it. The challenging part about delivery is that there are a million ways to do it. So I'll just give you like a basic structure to start. So you have them going through the curriculum, right? And we talked about down here, the community aspects, and this happens over time as you bring more clients in. And then you layer that on top with coaching. So notice how coaching is not the biggest piece of this, but it's very important. So the coaching can be done as one group call a week. So when I started Healthpreneur, our Health Business Accelerator program actually started off as a 2-day live workshop. Then we brought it online. I actually just started off by doing a Q&A call once a week. That was it. And then as our client base grew, I added another call and then another call. And then I thought to myself, could I maybe bring in some other experts to help with this? And then we grew our team over time. But you don't need to offer 7 calls a week. We offer 7 to 8 calls per day right now. It's crazy. I mean, whatever you need support on, we got you covered. But it didn't start there. So when you're thinking about the coaching, it could be one group call a week. Maybe if you feel you want to continue doing one-on-one, you can offer one-on-one office hours. So office hours are awesome. And how they work is instead of someone being able to take an hour on your calendar whenever, you determine how much time you want to put aside. In this case, I'd say once to twice a month. So every other week you open up, let's say a 2 to 3 hour time block. And that time block is for office hours. That's it. So if you look at your calendar, so I'll just quickly sketch this out. So if this were your calendar, you're going to say, okay, cool. So on this day, in this time block, I have office hours. Oh. And then over here, I'm going to do another one. And let's call this like 1 to 3 p.m. And this one is like, 10 to 1. Okay, so you have 3 hour time blocks. Within these time blocks, you have whatever that is, 6 time slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And each of these are 15 to 20 minutes. That's it. What we have found is that one-on-one sessions are a complete waste of time in a way that most people do them. 15 to 20 minutes allows you to focus on what's working, where they're stuck, and what they're going to do next. Period. End of story. It's not about tell me where all this started. Now, again, no offense to therapy, but when you're coaching, you don't spend as much time in the past. It's more about what are we going to do moving forward to fix this. So it's very, very solution-oriented as opposed to story-oriented. And when you don't talk about the story for 45 minutes, you don't need an hour. Okay, so again, just being open-minded, if you're open to this is how you can cut down your one-on-one dramatically and still provide laser-focused coaching and direction for your clients. So that would be an example of how you include office hours or one-on-one into this type of structure. And then again, as the base, they're going through the curriculum on their own. So when we look at this type of client-empowered model, the vast majority of the work is on the client, not on you. And if you think about the flip side of this, let's say that you're a chiropractor and you have 80 patient visits a week. Each one of those patients sees you twice, 3 times, but you see all your clients 80 times. Like, it's all you. Everything is reliant on you. Here, the difference is completely reversed. If you had 80 active clients, you would not be working as much as you do in person online. Because of this type of structure, the client, who could be on the other side of the country, other side of the city, doesn't matter, they have to do more of the work. So they have to show up, they take the onus, they learn how to fish, and then you simply make sure they're on track and you check in with these group calls or these office hours or whatever type of support structure you want to offer. Therapist, chiropractor, physical therapist, doesn't matter. When you allow your clients and when you give them this type of structure, you will be amazed at the types of results that they get. And the only thing, as I said at the beginning of this video, is just being open-minded to the fact that there's probably a better way than what you're doing. And if what you're doing is working great, by all means, keep doing it. Doesn't matter to me, right? It's your life, it's your business. I'm just sharing what we do with our clients, and it's worked for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of your colleagues. So if this is making sense to you, let me know in the comments below. This is how you go from your in-person practice into transitioning online, and how you can leverage more of your time, how you can leverage more of your expertise, and start to build out a coaching program that helps more people transform their lives, allows you to make a lot more money, and you get to work a little bit or a lot less. I'm going to show you exactly how to get more high-paying coaching clients into your health coaching business using this jug and 4 cups. This 4 steps here are going to be exactly what you want to do to get high-paying clients.